Hello, is this thing on? The podcast you're about to listen to contains warmly offensive language, crude humor, and countless spoilers for things we guarantee haven't been spoiled for you yet. Listener discretion is advised, especially if you make me angry. You better not fucking piss me off. If you listen to this in public, this isn't safe for work. Get some fucking headphones or something. Want to skip to a specific section of the show? That's awesome! Just look at the episode description. It has timestamps for wherever you want to go. Now sit back and relax, because you want to listen to two fat guys talk.
It's that time again, Carlos.
It's that time! My name is Carlos.
This is Dave.
This is episode 64 of Two Fat Guys Talk. This episode is called 64-Bit. Silly listeners, this podcast runs on an 8-bit core. It's our preamble and opening banter. How the hell are you doing? Oh wait, we're not doing our catch-up yet. This is just our preamble and opening banter. So,
You suck.
okay, good banter. Let's get right into mailbag and corrections. We got a bunch of voicemails.
Hey, whoa. I'm not done the preamble here.
Oh, okay, go on.
Okay, just hang on a second. I just gotta look up a certain anime.
No! Do not show me the stupid scene in Arc the Lad where his childhood friend gets turned into a bunch of I won't watch it. I won't do it.
Just for everybody listening to this at home, he actually grabbed his jacket and was gonna hide underneath his jacket.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't want to see it.
We just got finished watching a few episodes of you say the full title because I can't.
Puella Magi Madoka Magica.
We're about just over halfway through the series, and I was thinking of things to psychologically injure Carlos in the past, and Arc the Lad just happened to be the first thing that came to my mind.
If you brought that up, I would have to go watch that scene where Mammy got her head chomped off just to laugh again.
There you go. Mailbag
And corrections. I don't think we got any corrections, but we do have mailbag, and we have a bunch of voicemails from Meowth900 on Twitter, and from, what's his Twitter handle? Absolutely_daft on Twitter. Let's listen to Meowth. I believe Meowth sent a bunch first, and then Adan sent us a bunch after that. So let's listen.
Hello, Super Fat Guys Talk. This is Meowth900 again. Kill la Kill is happening on Adult Swim. Toonami, revived Toonami block. I know you guys are Canadian, so you probably don't know or give a crap about what I'm talking about, but yes, for once I don't have to torrent a dub by any plex. Even though most of the time their dubs are mostly average. If I want a better dub, I could probably just watch Funimation or Viz Media. Anyways, that's happening. Can't wait for that. Naruto is still terrible. I mean, the good thing is the slow pace of Shippuden's finally going to stop. And then go into a filler arc. Yay! But, yeah, that aside. That's pretty much the only big news that has happened other than a huge blizzard. And possibly more snow. And, stupid football. But who cares about football? Anyways, I'm trying to figure out what video games I want to buy. I want to get eShop cards so I can get stuff on the eShop. But I'm not sure what games I want to get, so either recommend me some stuff on the Virtual Console or just recommend me anything that goes on sale.
Alright, so you're looking for eShop games to get.
Hang on. First voicemail is from Meowth.
Yes. I believe I said that earlier.
You mentioned that we had multiple voicemails from a couple people. So this was Meowth's first.
At Meowth900 on Twitter. She had a lot of things to say about Kill la Kill being on Toonami now, and or Adult Swim, as it were, and some things to say about dubs and anime. But the real crux of her voicemail was she was asking us what she can use eShop points on and what games to get.
So I'm just going to go over a couple of her anime things there.
Okay.
It's cool that Toonami, you're right, up here in Canada we don't get Toonami. So...
Or Adult Swim. Or... I'm not actually sure what the difference is between these things. I think Adult
Swim we can get. It's a specialty channel, I believe.
Well,
depending on what provider you've got.
It's part of Cartoon Network. So,
yeah.
who also owns Teletoon, but we get none of the good stuff.
We still suggest watching Kill la Kill subtitled if you're able to.
The dub isn't horrible.
It just isn't great. She's very much right. Aniplex's dubs are pretty average. There's usually some really good voice actors,
But even considering the dub, Kill la Kill is probably better than half the crap that's going to be on Adult Swim anyway, so...
Good point. I have no idea about Naruto's anime these days, so I will believe you when you say it's getting past the slow part and then going into another filler, which, let's face it, between Bleach and Naruto, they have almost as much filler as they do actual episodes. So, yeah, I feel sorry for you if you're... it's cool if you're interested in it. I just feel sorry if you're having to have the actual show cut off so much you're having to watch so much filler.
No, filler. What a curse.
Besides that, you were asking about the Virtual Console on the Nintendo platform, so I'm guessing you're talking either Wii or Wii U, probably Wii U.
Or 3DS also uses
Or
the same,
3DS, yes.
Same eShop, if you have the same Club Nintendo account, you can apply your points to any of those. So, so I mean... we can only recommend the games we like, because, there are games there are Wii-centric games that I don't care for, like Monster Hunter. Like, Monster Hunter is never going to be my thing, so if you're a Monster Hunter fan, yeah, but I mean, I can only talk about the games that I felt were good, and
actually, there's something to mention there, Meowth. If you have been buying your Nintendo games and you've been putting into the Club Nintendo your codes, so you're getting points. Remember to cash in your Club Nintendo points for actual games. I mean, I picked up the 101
Wonderful 101
for Wii U.
That's those coins, right?
That's the
program.
coins, yeah. I was also thinking about picking up the combination of Mario World, Metroid, or Super Metroid. And then the third one was going to be just something from the list kind of thing. But I decided not to pick up Mario World because, quite frankly, I want Mario All-Stars. And you're not going to get that from the Virtual Console because they won't be able to charge you for all 4 games.
It's pretty lame.
So, this one really comes down to what sort of games you like, Meowth. I mean, if you like the RPGs, grab Final Fantasy III, Chrono Trigger, especially that version, seeing as it doesn't justify Chrono Cross.
Yeah, the Super Nintendo version of Chrono Trigger is the only one you can play where you don't have to acknowledge Chrono Cross's existence, so that's definitely a plus.
On the other hand, I did like some of the changes they did in the Game Boy Advance, or the DS.
The DS version.
DS version of Chrono Trigger, so it's a toss-up. But Virtual Console is really something hard to ultimately suggest unless we know what genres you like.
If she's got eShop points, she can buy... If she's got eShop cards, she can buy any game on the Wii U.
Okay, so
she could get Mario Kart 8, for instance, and if she doesn't have that, that's a great Mario Kart.
Fair enough.
She could get Hyrule Warriors if she likes Dynasty Warriors games and wants to play Zelda-themed Dynasty Warriors. She could get
Shantae.
She could get Shantae, the Shantae games. She can get Super Smash Brothers for Wii U, which recently came out with 16 8-player stages in a free DLC, was it? She can get new Super Mario Brothers Wii U, and it's a Luigi DLC. She can get Super Mario 3D Land. There's just so many good things to get. I mean, if you want a multiplayer platformer, go for one of the Mario ones. If you want to fight a lot of guys and beat a lot of guys at once, go for Hyrule Warriors. If you want to race with surprisingly good online, go for Mario Kart 8. This is a tough thing to recommend. A tough thing to choose. Because everyone has their own tastes, right?
Yeah. That's all we can say about that one, Meowth.
Next voicemail.
So I recently finished up the Psychopaths 2 broadcast dub and the Laughing Under the Clouds broadcast dub. Or as Dave would call it, Dante Noiro. I I don't really get the people who use the Japanese names. Just use the English names. They're much easier to pronounce. I mean, really. Nanatsu no Taizai. Shinjeki no Kyojin. Oh, man. I don't get those guys at all. Anyways, yeah, Psycho Pass 2. Do not watch. If you watched the first Psycho Pass or are planning to watch the first Psycho Pass, do not watch Psycho Pass 2. Do not. Do not. And if Laughing Under the Clouds, that was good. It was okay. It was only 12 episodes long, so it didn't feel as padded as the 26 episode shows usually do. And I thought it was good. I mean, if the animation company wants to dub them, like as they come out in Japan, instead of waiting like 18 months to dub something after they come out in Japan, I'm completely okay with this formula. I could pretty much binge this stuff in like maybe 1 or 2 days anyways. I mean, I'm already caught up with Archer after 3 weeks, so yeah. Have you ever watched something in second season or third season is terrible?
Okay.
I only really go for the Japanese titles because I mean, since we did the fall 2014 things, and these are all shows that won't come out in English forever and ever. Like, I don't think Yuki Yuna is even out yet in English.
No, but that's announced for English release in March.
Yeah, so we could have waited for Yuki Yuna is a Hero in March.
However, that wasn't her question.
Or we could have watched Yuki Yuna wa Yushadaru in fall of last year. So I mean,
she's basically referring just to why make the title, why go for the Japanese title over the English title, and that was usually I read it just because it was on the screen, so I knew what it was.
Sure, Seven Deadly Sins versus Nanatsu no Taizai.
But you went back and forth on it.
I've gone back and forth on because Nanatsu no Taizai means Seven Deadly Sins.
I know.
There's that other Nanatsu no Taizai that has nothing to do with the first one, and it's just the Seven Deadly Sins, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, for Yuki Yuna, for me personally, it's because I like the Japanese title better, because Yuki Yuna is a hero in English sounds dumb. I thought they should have called it Yuki Yuna and the Hero Club myself, because that makes a lot more sense. But I mean, because then, with that show, it's not just Yuki, it's not just Yuna, it's about all of them. So, I mean, that kind of cements the whole team aspect and the fact that they're all important there. I will go with whatever title sticks in my mind most. It doesn't
Pretty
really
much.
matter. Like, I grew up in a Portuguese household, and I had to learn Portuguese and English titles for various things all the time. So, I mean, another language title doesn't bother me in the slightest.
Funny enough, I find that Japanese titles actually stick in my head more often than not if I'm interested, like Shakugan no Shana.
Sure.
I will never just call it Shana because I that's just what it is.
This manga I read recently, which I'll talk about later in the show, the English title for it is, oh god, I just forgot it.
Ah.
Well, it has the Japanese title for it is really long and complex, and since I read the English title first, I kind of like the English title a lot better.
You talking that manga you were...
Yeah, we'll get to it. It's Qualia the Purple. Yes. It's something no Qualia in Japanese.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, I call it whatever you want, as long as it makes sense and whoever you're talking to knows what it is, it's fine. Things that had a terrible second and third season.
Well, I'm not even going to number the season, but let's go Slayers.
Okay, so...
First, second, third season?
So, yeah, okay,
Sure.
but they all had a title, so let's go by that. So there's Slayers, the original Slayers, which was okay. Good introduction to the world. Slayers Next, which was really good, except for the Mary Suing of Lena, because she beat basically every enemy in that show.
Mm-hmm.
I think she got all the kills but 2. And one of them was Zelgadis, and the other was Gowry, arguably. Slayers Try felt weaker, but it was more serious and had a more in-depth story. And I know occasional guest of the show, Kiki, actually really likes Slayers Try and likes the narrative put behind it. I thought it might have perhaps been a little too heavy for the kind of show Slayers is, which is ultimately a shonen show, and I hate that title. It's ultimately just an action show. And yeah, I'm okay with deeper narratives, but the whole narrative about the racism and the civil war amongst the dragons seemed kind of almost... it both got lost in the backdrop of Slayers, and it took away a bit from Lena and the group. So, I mean...
I really enjoyed Try. Next was just fine. I love watching the last arc within that the most. I will just go back and watch that last arc.
That arc is so good in Slayers Next.
Though I will...
Evil Gowry, Zangulos being an amazing character for all of 3 episodes. Fabrizzo is such a bitch. And even before that arc, Gov, I love Gov as a villain so much.
My favorite moment in Try, though, and I will go and watch this 2-minute segment just at random, is when Lena gets her letter from her sister.
Oh, and then she buries herself in the pyramid.
She makes the pyramid, buries the pyramid, and then starts screaming that she's going to kill her.
You can hear her screaming on the inside. That's fucking hilarious.
I love that scene. I love the ending where, you know, they're all using the freaking weapons of light to kick ass.
And then there's Slayer's Revolution.
Which, okay, I'm going to say this. There were 2 parts. Wait, the Slayer's Revolution and
there's
then
Slayer's Revolution, that was the first part.
Yeah.
And Slayer's Evolution R, which was the second.
So Slayer's Revolution did some things just fine. I didn't have... It was just plainly... It was a 5 out of 10. It was okay.
You're giving it 4 more points than it deserves.
Nope. Hang on. And I brought it up from where it was after we started watching Revolution R.
Evolution R.
Okay, fine. Evolution R. Because, my God, was that awful.
Revolution was garbage. I don't know what you're saying with a 5 out of 10, as though somehow it just balances out. No, man. Revolution was hot trash. They introduced a new character who would only come into prominence much later in Evolution R. They fucking shat all over the various relationships we had built before, because the first 3 seasons built strongly upon the will they, won't they horrible ship teasing between Gowry and Lena, or I should say Lena and Gowry. Lena's the main character here. Lena and Gowry, and Zelgadis and Amelia. And neither Revolution nor Evolution R acknowledged the existence there, like, at all. So fuck them both for that.
I mean, just like Try.
Try had a lot of Zelgadis Amelia stuff. Not a lot of Lena Gowry stuff.
That's true.
But I mean, they just fucking ignored that. It was just outright ignored. It wasn't even acknowledged.
Mm-hmm.
They got all the original dub voice actors back for the 4 characters. And that's great, but I mean, they can't save garbage. And ultimately there was nothing there. There's a lot of bad boob jokes between Lena and the guy who looks like Terriermon.
Yeah.
And that was the crux of the humor. Before, the humor was... There were moments in the first 3 seasons of Slayer where the humor was subtle and funny, like when Slayer's Try starts getting serious and then fucking Zelos goes to the spell, it's like, deposit money and ring the bell for good luck. Oh, the economy must be in a slump. Oh, well. And he deposits the money, rings the bell, and it fucking collapses on him. He's like, ah!
You're reminding me.
Meanwhile, in Revolution R, small chest, you're a shrimp, small chest, flat chest, dragon slave. And that's the humor there. There were cool things about Revolution. I forget his name, but that ninja character was badass as shit. And I love that they brought in a normal human who can seriously match Lena Inverse without magic. Because he was so badass, she couldn't ever cast with him on top of her. And she was going to die if she didn't have her friends with her to this regular-ass ninja. That guy was badass, and he just got even cooler in Evolution R.
I guess what brings Revolution up to a 5 in my mind is remembering just how bad Evolution R went. I mean, the group of us, were watching both Revolution and Evolution R.
Because we thought there was going to be good stuff there.
When we hit the fish marriage episode,
Yeah, where Gowrie marries the fisherman.
Carlos just started pressing. He hit fast forward on the DVD player or the PlayStation, whenever we were watching it.
I just hit fast forward.
And you look at us and you're like, just tell me when to stop.
No, that's not what I said. I just started fast forwarding. Nobody objected. And then we went on to the next episode, and I believe Kiki said good. That's how bad some of those episodes get. And then Evolution R,
good.
The end of that show started actually kicking ass.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It's like, at what point, then the ninja comes back, he's augmented by demons, and now he's really kicking the crap out of everyone. We got to see good Gowrie moments even in Revolution and Evolution R, obviously he's a better match for the ninja, right?
Yeah.
That's the kind of opponent he should be fighting, and not Lena. And when the ninja powers up with the two demons, he's just wasting Lena and Gowrie. Like, they can't do anything to this guy. And then Zelos kills him in one shot. And then, oh look, it's Rezo again. Oh, another Rezo. It's a clone Rezo. Let me guess. The final enemy's a clone Shabernigdo? Yep. And admittedly, the end thing with clone Shabernigdo was pretty fucking cool, because we all know Shabernigdo is much better than all the times he gets punked by Gigaslave. That's the only reason he ever loses. If they don't use Gigaslave, they're fighting a full-on Demon Lord, right?
They're done, yeah.
So, I mean, the show ended well enough, and the arc that the Terriermon character had finally came to fruition there. It took too long to happen, though. Back to Revolution for a second. What was up with the final fight there against Xanathar, of all things? They acted like they never fought Xanathar before. They fought Xanathar at the end of the first season of Slayers. He was the final enemy in that season.
Yeah.
And now they're acting like he's some new thing that they fucking never had to deal with. No, they fought Xanathar.
Well, here's the thing. They never fought Xanathar directly. It was Clone Rezo having Xanathar's power.
This is actually the second clone of Rezo that makes Clone Shabernigdo. Sorry, I didn't mean to mix anyone up with these Rezo clones.
Well, no. I have to at least defend that, because they were actually fighting Xanathar as, himself. It wasn't a clone having his powers.
But there was no acknowledgement that they fought Xanathar already. It's the same name. It's effectively the same guy. No acknowledgement like, oh, well, people won't remember. But there's acknowledgement of all the past villains. Gov, Fabrizzo, and Valgov are in this intro of Evolution R. Mm-hmm. I thought they were all going to come back and save this show. They never did.
Nope.
But I mean, and this takes place well after Slayer's Try, because Gowrie does not have a Sword of Light.
Yep.
He has to use the manufactured one the Terriermon character made.
Yeah, no, let's just... Meowth, that is the best thing I can tell you as far as what sticks in our minds for a Season 2 sucking compared to Season 1.
Oh.
Or a continuation.
What's that show, the Journey West show?
Oh, God.
What was that show called again? Sayuki.
Sayuki
had 2 awesome seasons. The second one not as good as the first, but 2 awesome seasons with an awesome dub. Then a different dub shop took over, and the series itself started losing money and had no budget and went to shit. And we still haven't seen the last few episodes of that. And I honestly don't think we're missing anything.
No.
That show went to shit real quick.
And here's the thing. It didn't have to. The reason why that one went to shit is because you had one dub studio who took the source material and then westernized it with swears and making the characters interesting. And then you had the next studio who took it over for the next season, and they did a direct word-for-word translation over. The characters no longer had their personalities, and it sucked.
Yeah, the dub sucked, and even if the original dub had stayed, that show lost, all its funding in Japan. And the writing was suffering. It was garbage. Yeah. It was hot garbage. So, I mean, that show really blew as well. Any ongoing action show seems to fall into this trap eventually, because they just don't know how to do arcs or anything. Like, Bleach was awesome until the Soul Society arc, and then it was garbage forever and ever until that point.
Bleach only, for me, recovered for 1 season. And that was the final season they did of the anime, which was part of the manga, but it actually had an interesting arc again.
Sure.
Too bad it took 250 episodes to get to that, and then was over.
Hello, Carlos and Dave. It's Adan. I don't know what to ask since Carlos hasn't said anything that I violently disagree with. So I guess my question to the both of you is, what martial art would you guys take up, and if what purpose would you be able to use your martial art to change something if you could? Um, I guess I'm just asking this question since I've been taking historical fencing recently, so. Yeah, I don't know what to ask. So, um, Carlos, I don't know why I'm asking this, but please say something that I can violently disagree with you on. Please. Thank you. Take care.
All right, that was Adan at absolutely_daft on Twitter. I would take up gun kata, and I would use it for the express purpose of killing Dave.
Gee, thanks. No wonder it fails. Whereas if I was gonna take up a martial art of some sort, not necessarily a martial art, I'd have to go for ancient bow use.
Why do you want the ghetto weapon? The crossbow is way better than the bow.
While I agree with you, if you've watched some recent videos, the one guy who's been trying to bring back the ancient way of actually using the bow, you get off one shot, I get off 4 or 5 in the same period.
Yeah, that's cute. My gun kata kills you in 5 nanoseconds.
Uh-huh.
You get off a bunch of shots. I don't care. I got my gun kata to heal me.
Hey,
to heal me with bullets.
As long as you're going that way, I know I have no problem. Because you can't hit the broadside of a barn.
Oh, trust me, my gun kata is so accurate. I could bounce bullets off everything. A lot of innocent people are gonna die.
Great, you get a wanted wannabe.
Something to piss you off. Okay, well, let me think.
Try and keep that in mind for whatever his next voicemail is, maybe.
No. I'm gonna mention some things now. Okay, Death Note was garbage, and the thing they just kind of glossed over in 5 minutes was the thing the whole show should have been about, which was Light's Fall from Grace. I've seen 7 episodes of Madoka Magica, and I'm not that impressed. Full Metal Alchemist, the 2003 series, shits all over Brotherhood and the manga, and anyone who disagrees doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. Let me think here. Superman should have stayed with Lois Lane. Wonder Woman, she can find her own man. Thank you very much. Lesbian couples are better than any other type of couple, and if you disagree, you're just a monster. Sailor Moon should dump that loser and hook up with Sailor Mars.
Are you done?
No. If, Batman's greatest enemy is his own demented psyche. If he could just fucking relax and move on like every other person who's had trauma in their lives, he could be an actual happy person, not a damaged piece of shit.
You mean like Christian Bale at the end of last Batman movie?
Yeah, The Dark Knight Rises is hot garbage. Hot, steamy garbage. Let me think, what else? Secret of Evermore, is not the reason that Secret of Mana 3 never came out here, but it might as well have been, because Secret of Mana 3 sucks! Final Fantasy 7's garbage. Final Fantasy 8's garbage.
Hey!
9's garbage. 10 is pretty garbage. 11's garbage. 12 is garbage. 13 is garbage. And 14, I heard it was pretty good, but I don't care. So that doesn't leave a good track record for 15. The last good Final Fantasy game was 6, and it had a lot of garbage shit in it, even though I love it to death. Japan is a terribly homophobic place, and they need to stop so that I can get more Yuri fanfiction, Yuri mangas that isn't fucking, girls being like, oh, but we're both girls. Oh no, what are we gonna do? Shut the fuck up. Just show it as a reasonable, accepted part of society so that we can move on as a species. Canada's hot garbage. We are a shitty country, and we do terrible things too, and everybody thinks we're polite.
Okay, you've been rambling now.
If you like mini donuts, you're not a terrible person, but I mean, get the fuck over yourself. They're just mini donuts.
Hello, Carlos and Dave. It's Adan again. In your guys' Madoka Magica anime rave, I believe it was Carlos said something about how plot twists aren't the only thing to storytelling. So I guess, Carlos, I would like you to elaborate that on some more, because I actually kind of found that thought intriguing. Because, like, you know, normally I just like watching stories just for the hell of it, you know. I'm not always wanting to be like, oh shit, looks like they were brother and sister making out the whole time, you know. I don't really care for plot twists all that much, but I don't know, but for some reason I feel like, you know, shows like Game of Thrones are really good is because of the plot twists. So, I don't know. I guess I would just like. I guess I'm just asking for you to elaborate that on a little more. So that's about it. Well, all right. Thanks for taking my calls, guys. Have a good. Have yourselves a good time.
What I generally mean when I kind of blast people who like plot twists and think that plot twists are fiction is when somebody likes anything with a plot twist. Like, if it has a plot twist, bam, they like it. This is... I mentioned it in the Madoka Magica one because that show has a toxic, virulent fucking fan base beyond others that I've ever seen. And they seem to think that any show that has any inkling of an idea that was also used in that show is ripping it off wholesale. Which is what led me to say, you know, like, plot twists aren't fiction, right? You can't just hinge on a plot twist to save you. A plot twist has to be interesting. It has to be executed well. Ideally, you should be able to see the plot twist, like, you should be able to know if it's know it's coming, even though you don't have to read up on something. You should be able to know it's coming and still be, like, surprised and delighted by it. If fiction is just, it hinges on a plot twist to make the movie or the show, it's garbage. This is something M. Night Shyamalan hasn't figured out yet. The Village, the entire point to watch that movie is to see the plot twist that happens. There are two. One is when the protagonist is not who you think they are, and the second is just where the village is set in. And if you don't know either of these two things, just go read it on Wikipedia, because the movie that surrounds these things is hot garbage. That's kind of what I mean.
I have nothing to add to that.
Plot twists are fine. I have no issue with them. I have an issue with fiction that uses them as life support. If it's using a plot twist as life support, it's probably not a good piece of work.
Yeah, M. Night.
M. Night.
This concludes our mailbag and correction section.
Folks, if you want to send us voicemail, go to twofatguystalk.com. There's a little voicemail banner on the side. Click it, record away. If you don't want your voice to be heard, you can leave us just a comment on any of our articles. We'll get an email saying that you left a comment, or you can talk to either of us on Twitter. I'm at Handsome Fat Man, and Dave here's at The Dude Hack. And we'll if your messages are worth answering, and most of the time they will be, we'll answer them. And when I say worth answering, I mean if you're just sending bullshit hate mail, we might answer you, but maybe just to make fun of you.
Exactly.
What you do! Dave and Carlos and friends catch up. I didn't remove and friends from the last episode here.
Nice.
Dave, what you do?
Combination of Diablo 3 on PS4,
Mm-hmm.
Guild Wars 2,
Mm-hmm.
and Dragon Age.
Mm-hmm.
Inquisition.
Nice.
Which I have 84 hours into right now.
Nice. I have been playing some old games on my NVIDIA Shield, one of which I'm going to talk about here in our game section. I have been finding not safe for work Yuri manga to read because I'm a terrible human being. It eventually led me to finding a manga I'm going to talk about later. And otherwise, I've been, like, working and sleeping and video editing and audio editing and writing. So, I mean, not much in the way of games that I've been playing. It's been that way for a while. But yeah, that's what I do. Shall we move right on to time jumps and fist bumps?
Sure should.
This is our game section. So, first item here is I Wax Poetic about Castlevania Bloodlines on the Genesis. I will admit that this is a game I've been enjoying on through emulation, and I did not play at the time that I had a Genesis, because I kind of I was in love with Super Castlevania 4, and I kind of just thought this was some kind of cheapo knockoff. And no, actually, Castlevania Bloodlines is a really fucking good game. I argue it's probably way better than Super Castlevania 4. It's a lot tighter. It's a lot more challenging, but the controls are a lot tighter. It's very finely tuned. It's a very pretty Genesis game and has amazing music for that system as well. And I think it was the first time Castlevania... No, it's not the first time Castlevania had, like, 2 distinct playable characters, but both are unique. There's your usual Belmont-type character with the caveat that he can do some bionic commando-style swinging along with the whipping. And then there's a character who uses Spirit who can use it for super jumps and other cool little techniques. It's honestly a super underrated game as both a Castlevania title and as a Genesis game, and I wish I played it more in its heyday. Castlevania Bloodlines, yeah, good stuff.
Next up is Law and Order SVU. Recently had a GamerGate episode.
Well,
it wasn't called GamerGate, but it dealt with a number of things that have become synonymous with the GamerGate experience.
Yes, like harassment and threats of violence and rape and terrible, terrible things that stupid, shitty terrorist fucking movement advocates in the name of gaming. I didn't watch the episode, and I don't care to.
I did.
Oh, go on.
Okay, number one, let's look at this logically. It was a Law and Order SVU episode.
Of course.
Which means that the lines and the dialogue in it were fucking awful.
Of course.
It also did not really show gaming culture in any positive light at all. Even, it played the most immature part of everything.
I don't want to see gaming culture show positively right now. It is showing an ugly side of itself, and it needs to feel shame and humiliation until it excises the immature bigots that have unfortunately hijacked it.
Sure. I'll look forward to that when hockey's able to do that.
I don't understand what that means.
Hockey's been around for generations now, and it will never get rid of its immaturity. Neither will gaming. But we have to fight to get into a better light.
Yeah, that's fine. It is okay to fight the bigoted, hate-filled terrorist movement that is GamerGate. No problem. My issue is that I don't want an episode that is using it as a basis for fiction to kind of go out of its way to show the positive side of gaming. Because since August of last year, there's been very little positive side here. Our strides, and by our I mean any gamer who isn't a bigoted piece of shit, to make gaming seen as a legitimate art form have been ruined en masse by a bunch of immature men. And right now, what gaming deserves, and I say this as a gamer myself, it deserves to be looked at like shit. And it's got to do that until people realize that you need to fight people like this, and the people who are like this need to fucking get jailed or arrested, like that asshole swatter.
Hey, and let's call that out. A swatter has actually been arrested and is looking at major charges.
Good.
The only thing that he's not being accused of right now is attempted murder, and I think that needs to be added there.
Yeah, should be charged with attempted murder. Anyone in GamerGate who has been harassing Zoe Quinn, who still can't go home, who has been harassing Brianna Wu, who is in a similar situation, who has been harassing Anita Sarkeesian, whose views I don't even always agree with, but who has no business getting death threats and rape threats, all of them need to be charged with crimes and or jailed. And until that happens, gaming's not going to recover. So if you want gaming to recover from this slump, and you see people acting like this, you call them out. And you start asking your law enforcement and your politicians to actually treat them like the criminals they are.
I'm going to grab a later point on our list here, seeing as it does actually go along with this.
Mm-hmm.
I picked up on an article on Slashdot today that the notorious 8chan board actually had to wipe its history of one of its main topic areas due to a federal judge's information being doxed on it.
Yeah, there was a section of 8chan called Baphomet where, like, white men, or usually idiot man children, and the worst, idiotic, most man-children of them go to Baphomet. And they are basically the people who deserve the most to go to jail. These are people who really need to be locked away from society because they exist only to terrorize and hurt others. And it's the head of that board repeatedly supported doxing by saying it's just publicly available information anyway, which of course ignores the context that it's used to harass and threaten. Like an idiot, he started posting people's social security numbers, including that of a federal judge, and I guess he's trying to leave the country, leave the States and go to China, and I hope he doesn't make it. I hope that he rots, actually. So
it's just amazing that it took the posting of a federal judge's information to get him to eliminate the history so that he wouldn't be charged.
Law enforcement is fucking incompetent. I've talked about it all the time. Law enforcement is incompetent. It exists because governments need them to exist to keep people like us from getting too free, right? And that's why, unfortunately, we're seeing this everywhere in the United States. Black people who there is zero evidence to support that black people are much more criminally inclined than anyone else, but they make up the majority of people who are arrested and thrown in prison because, unfortunately, the powers that be are white men. And most police officers are white men, and most people who work in law enforcement are white men. So law enforcement is incompetent, has remained conservative and stuck in the last century, and the idea of cybercrime is still alien. And it's especially compounded when you have, like, I read an article by Zoe Quinn where she tried to explain the harassment to a judge, and the judge actively tried to blame her for causing her own harassment because we are a stupid species and we blame victims. So, I mean, law enforcement is fucking incompetent. I'm not surprised that these people who deserve to go to jail haven't gone to jail yet, because law enforcement doesn't even know they fucking exist. And are in so many other ways so backwards that there's nothing that's ever going to be done about this, unless major change happens. Sorry, I think I hijacked your topic there.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Moving on from that one, we have that Sony Online Entertainment was sold off.
Yeah.
And within a week, massive layoffs hit what was left.
First you hear that, oh hey, they're their own company now. They might be able to even make games for Sony rivals. And then massive layoffs because they're Sony Online Entertainment. What have they done to turn a profit?
Which, as I told you when you said that the first time in conversation, you're already wrong on that because Sony Online Entertainment already did do games for other systems.
Yeah, whatever. The point is, what has Sony Online Entertainment done to keep afloat?
Not much.
They have the EverQuest games under their belt, a DC MMO, a handful of other MMOs.
PlanetSide 2.
They basically have a bunch of MMOs that do poorly. I'm not surprised at all to hear about this.
Still sad to hear.
I don't like to hear anybody losing their jobs, especially not game devs.
Speaking of games and things going wrong, StarCraft 2 match fixing and betting issues.
So this is another StarCraft issue miring the Korean StarCraft scene.
Yep.
Where a major StarCraft player was found, he was accused of...
Not just a player.
A team. They were found to be engaging in behavior consistent with that of match fixing in the past. These allegations are alleged at this point.
No longer.
Oh, okay, so no longer alleged? Well, the point is, yeah, match fixing is something that has existed in sport for a long time. And make no mistake, competitive video games, like organized competition, is sport. It doesn't matter what it is. That includes video games. So sports have had match fixing forever. Like, look at soccer. Look at, okay, the big one is soccer. Like,
soccer's the big one. Baseball and football, they've managed to halt most of it.
Sure, but I mean, match fixing is kind of if there's money involved, there's going to be match fixing, right? Like, I'm not surprised to hear it, because in Korea, StarCraft is huge.
I mean, the closest thing we have in North America for stuff happening like that is the Counter-Strike. competitions, where recently Valve has banned a number of teams from ever competing again in a Counter-Strike game competition because they were doing the same thing, match fixing.
Well, this happens in the only competitive gaming I follow are fighting games, and this happens on a smaller scale there, where two high-level players will sometimes collude to pot split, and so no matter which one of them wins, they each take home half the final pot, right? Now, that I'm okay with, because of what a person does with their winnings after they've won them is their fucking business. So, I mean, I have no issue with that. Why that's damaging, though, is because if these two players just don't try in the last match, it is extraordinarily obvious, and now your grand finals are a joke.
Yeah.
And while players have sponsors, events too have sponsors. And if these sponsors see people dropping off and complaining because the final match is obviously rigged, then the event venue suffers. I have seen streams where the event organizer, I think it was Spooky, who did this on a Team Spooky stream, he actually got up and he started yelling at the players, like, "What the hell are you doing on my stream? You're fucking colluding? Get the fuck out!" And he actually like started throwing them out, started throwing their shit out of the venue. Like, I think they resolved things after that, but the point is, like, in sport, this shit happens. It's terrible, and I think the only way to fix it as much as can possibly be fixed, is to ensure your tournament formats are good, and ensure there's incentive not to do that, but that's a tough thing to stop, no matter what.
Mm-hmm. It's unfortunate, but it's going to happen for as much as they can do.
Speaking of unfortunate, Andrew Garfield is not coming back as Spider-Man.
No, they're going on with a whole nother reboot.
And they're going to reboot Spider-Man for the third... Why do they have to reboot? Why does it have to be another origin story? Why can't they just have Spidey in one of the other movies and it can be a story in progress? Even the Fox Kids Spider-Man show didn't feel the need to tell an origin story. They started in progress and the origin was flashed back to.
From the little bit that's been announced, it's going to be him back in high school and him having his interactions with his classmates while being Spider-Man still. I just want them to continue the Andrew Garfield story.
If they're going to pick a new one, they could be progressive about it.
That was the other reason they're not, is they think he's too old to pull it off.
Maybe. If they do pick a new Spidey, I'm kind of hoping that they go for someone who isn't white.
Not going to happen.
I know, because Hollywood is terrible and racist. They're also terrible and sexist, which means we're not going to have a Spider-Gwen instead, which they should do. So, I mean, ultimately, yay, but The Marvel Cinematic Universe was doing just fine without Spider-Man.
I do like the fact that he's not going to be part of the story, because you know what they're going to do with Civil War now. I
didn't need Spidey to enjoy the cinematic version of Civil War. I did not need that. There could have been some other major hero who outed themselves. It didn't need to be Spider-Man. And especially if they're now going to try to just shoehorn him in, whatever.
I guess. Next is a line that I basically said, really?
And I know, and you should put something a little...
Well, if you read it, followed the link.
I read the link. I can't see the link right now.
It's the Dead or Alive 5
the modding
directors
one. Yeah,
asking PC modders to be moral. Here's the thing.
They have a little lolly girl in Lolita sex fetish outfits in the latest one. The fuck are they on?
They're basically trying to make it that... Obviously, on PC, it's going to be a lot easier to do a nude patch or whatever else. Here's the thing. It's Dead or Alive.
Yeah.
Seriously, you're saying that unless the PC crowd is moral, you're not going to release any more of your games on PC? That's your loss. If you don't like the money that you're going to make from PC because people are going to mod and change your game models, then you're obviously too sensitive to make games. Just stop.
It's so funny that this is coming out of Dead or Alive.
Yeah.
Too. Be ethical, please. No, how about, listen, You're the one who made a game where the majority of the major characters are
big boobed females.
Big boobed like women, I mean, they're models. They're models. This isn't like we're hurting real women by modding these models to look the way we want. And it's dead or alive. How much worse are modders going to make it?
You're the studio which pioneered the breast jiggle physics.
Yeah. So I mean,
or should I say the 0G breast?
Unless by be moral they mean don't make girls kiss each other because, Japan. Which might be true.
And following that up with a highlight that I called "It Looks Worse," really, is the comparison of Xenoblade Chronicles for the 3DS to its Wii previous version.
Yeah, and there are people bitching that the 3DS version looks worse. I looked really hard at those screenshots. Maybe slightly?
It actually looks much worse in the videos some people have posted. This is not me hating on it, because that was the game that was going to make me possibly actually trade in my Zelda 3DS and upgrade to the new one. Now I'm not, because I'm just going to dig up a copy of Xenoblade for Wii, because in motion, there's no reason why this game should look worse. It shouldn't animate worse. It shouldn't look more jaggy on the 3DS.
I really don't care about jaggies. It can have jagged edges. I've never cared about jagged edges. Anti-aliasing to me is the biggest fucking buzzword ripoff this fucking industry ever invented, along with replayability. It's more shit people caring about instead of what they should actually be caring about. But that's just me. You're allowed to go for the one that you think looks better to you. Next item. Profiles are needed like Now Nintendo. And you posted a story here about
how much effort it takes to actually transfer your games from the 3DS to the new 3DS.
Now, I would argue it doesn't seem like it takes that much effort. It's nowhere near as easy as doing it on a Sony or a Microsoft box. You got me there.
Or on a Vita.
And it really probably should be easier, but it isn't that hard either. It really isn't.
It's time for Nintendo to mature to an actual account-based system.
They have an account-based system.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do. You link your things up to Club Nintendo. That your purchases are remembered across.
I can't go onto my new system and just get my games. I have to do all this nonsense to make sure that I'm not putting on multiple consoles I own.
You're right. For that, profiles are necessary. For ensuring that your purchases are tracked to your account, that needs to happen so that you don't have to repurchase what you've already bought. You got me there.
That's all I want.
In that case, then my rebuttal doesn't really count.
You thought I was talking like trophies and all that.
Yeah, and then I was going to make this big spiel about how that's ruined gaming. But no, you're talking about convenience. And yeah, you're absolutely right. They need to... It's not horrible, but they need a better system than they have.
And I'd even argue that things like trophies haven't ruined gaming, but most of us just don't give a fuck.
They really shouldn't. I mean, I know two friends who were fighting over Microsoft points or Microsoft achievement points, and I told them, I don't see that Avatar game there. You can get 1,000 points in like 5 minutes. And they're like, oh, that doesn't count. That doesn't count. We've officially agreed not to use that. And I'm like, well, your competition's a joke already. And it's even more of a joke now.
Yeah, like, I don't care that I'm tier 14 on trophies on PSN and you're only 6. Big fucking whoop.
It doesn't matter.
I may have played more games, or I may have completed more games. What does it matter?
I take some pride in having rare trophies. Like, I used to go to Giant Bomb and sync my accounts there before I realized Giant Bomb was a piece of shit. And I used to sync my account so that I could see which trophies were rare. And the ones that were rare that I had, and I had a fair bit, those I took some pride in. And I kind of wish that the profiles would let me have a little metal case so that I could show off 5 trophies or achievements that are really rare. Because I want people to see that I've beaten a Mega Man game without taking a hit. I want people to see those, and I want them to go, motherfucker.
Well,
but that's just for funsies, man.
That's something that I would actually suggest suggesting to Sony, because like Valve's done that with their whole Steam game profile thing, where you can actually mark games that you've done really interesting trophies with. I also really appreciate on the PS4 how when I go and I look at a game for its trophies, it'll actually tell me what percentage of people who have played the game have got trophy XYZ, whether it is, a super rare one or a common one. And it's neat that you can go back later on and say, so it's also a really good indicator of how well the game was liked. Because I've gone back to some of my games that's been like, Infamous Second Son. There's less than 1% that has platinumed that game. Granted, that's the only game I've platinumed on a Sony system. But you can look at the trophies and actually see, well, only half the people only made it through half the game.
Sounds dirty. You're saying platinumed it. It's like, geez.
Sure.
Did you have consent?
Yes, I did. All over both hands.
All over both hands. Good work.
But it's neat that Sony now has that, where you can see just how rare the trophies were on there. And you can even look up your PS3 games on the PS4 and see the same sort of thing. Mm-hmm. It's also a really good sales indication.
Sure. There are benefits, but for transferring stuff and purchases, I agree with you.
But yeah, to the Nintendo stuff, it needs to... I will give credit to a company that I didn't think I'd give too much credit to, GameStop. Because you buy the system, full price, you take both systems home, you do the whole transfer, then you bring the stuff back, and then you get your discount for handing in your old system. I will give them credit for that, because I could imagine just how insane it would have to be to go in and do that in-store. It's already hard to get through a GameStop line when something good comes out, let alone limited time trade-in packages. So, good job on that. I can't see Best Buy or Future Shop or anybody else doing that, but yeah, it needs to be better.
Yeah,
it really does.
It needs to be better. That last link there, I'm not sure what that's
that was the federal judge doxing one.
Okay.
That completes the games section of the podcast. There really hasn't been too much that we've been interested in. I'm sure I'd
like to play more, but it's very busy. It's tough to find time, honestly.
And I find myself, when I get really into a game, which recently I've been playing a lot of Diablo 3 with my roommate. Besides that, when I started playing Dragon Age, holy crap did that game pull me in. There's not many games that I can say in the past 10 years that wasn't an MMO style that I've got 85 hours in, and I'm still looking forward to the next 40 or 50 hours I'm going to put into the game. Most games like that, I get bored by about hour 20. So, good job, BioWare. Fucking good job. You deserved all the praise I heard back last year for you.
Game's getting a lot of praise. Our next section. Are you done gaming talk?
Yes, we're done the gaming talk. But can we change this topic?
No, our next section is called I Hope Dave-Sempai Notices Me. This is our anime section. Anime bastard. And manga. Basically works from Japan, which now we have anime infecting this show. Yep. I blame you. I'm supposed to be the anime hater here.
By the way, you've updated or you've upgraded. You're now a max level anime lover.
On my Tumblr profile, one of the many things I've listed there is anime lover / hater. And I think that's about right still.
Less hater these days.
No, I still hate a lot of them. So, we're going to talk a bit about a show we've talked about before. Yuki Yuuna wa Yuusha da Aru, a.k.a. Yuki Yuuna is a hero, a.k.a. YuYuYu. This thing has like 17 different titles.
Fair enough. Just go with that.
So we talked about the series already, and if you haven't seen the series and don't care for this, maybe fast forward a bit. The show recently got a conclusion in the form of a light novel that takes place immediately after the final episode. Well, maybe not immediately after, but after the final episode. Where Sonoko, the Bandage Girl, where Bandage Girl, now having been cured, comes to their school and meets them, and hangs out with Yuuna and Togo and the rest of them, and has joined their hero club. And we get some surprising fucking revelations about what's happening now with the hero system.
And what happened to them.
Some of them jive with what we said should happen in the sequel, too.
It did.
So, long story short, Sonogo reveals to Togo certain things about what the Taisha's doing with the next iteration of the hero system. That Togo's actions and the defeat of so many Vertex, and I like to think that, you know, them being scared shitless out of their heroes rebelling, which they should be.
Yep.
I guess, for now, the prophecies are telling them there won't be a major attack for a while. For now, they're enjoying some peace. They're repairing the wall, the damage Togo did in 1 second of heroic blue screen of deathing. Heroic B-Sod, which I assume just means that. They're preparing for a new hero system, a mass-produced one, that is going to go along with revealing to the world that really they're the only thing left. I'm going to talk about that in a second. And allowing people the choice, whether or not they want to step up in the defense of the world. The new hero system will not have the Sang effect, it will not have the Mankai making you more and more freaking disabled effect. It will be mass-produced, so you can have many heroes fighting, and since they're all on a team, arguably a much higher success rate, and they won't have people die like Togo and Sonogo's friend did in the thing that occurred before this, because I guess that light novel, YuYuYu, was really like a sequel to that.
Mm-hmm. I knew that.
So,
but everybody who I talk to about that, they always suggest watch the anime, then go back and read the light novel, because you'll lose out on a lot of the effect of the anime if you read the light novel first.
I'm not even going to bother reading the light novel. I actually just went and I read a synopsis of it, and that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
Because Japanese light novels, even for shows I like, they suck. And I haven't found one I've liked, ever. Light novels and me don't get along. And that might be because just how Japanese writing and how it translates. I'll give it that. Maybe it's a lost in translation thing. That said, we learned that so we get a few ominous things, like maybe the girls are going to have to take up arms again, and
they're the generals.
That leads, if you don't mind me also incorporating the next point into that, into learning that Yuki Yuuna, YuYuSha de Aru, has apparently done very well, and a sequel is being very strongly considered where they go in new directions. And I need to bring up something from that Sonogo light novel. They mention that they're trying to find a way to restore the world by planting new trees that will arguably create new safe zones and whatnot.
Great.
So there is tons of material for a sequel there. And I've argued before, the same characters can be in it because, like, they can do things where the characters disagree with how to proceed and how other people's pain can cause them pain by proxy, even if they don't suffer quite as much anymore. So, yeah, more Yuki Yuuna stuff. What do you think of more Yuki Yuuna stuff, Dave?
See, I wouldn't mind there being a Season 2, even including our original cast. I don't see... They've already been through the best and the worst of the old system. So if they were all of a sudden handed new phones and said to fight again, and they knew that they weren't going to lose their voice, taste, body parts, etc., I don't think the girls would have too much of a problem with it because they're a group.
Yeah, except, without the fairies around, they could die.
Well,
in fact, they could die anyway. One of them already did, just not in Yuki Yuna. In what happened before, one of them already did. One of them paid the ultimate price already. And without fairies around and without the ability to mankai if things go really bad, their risk of getting killed, just outright killed, is pretty big now.
There would be problems, obviously, but they also know what they're fighting for. They'd be a lot better off than a whole new group just suddenly given the ability.
But at the same time, do they all want to fight? And this is where the interest could come in a season 2. And I swear to God, I'm so worried about there being another season of this because they could fuck it up so fast.
They could.
They better not do anything with time travel because that would just fuck too much
up.
No,
keep away from time travel.
Like,
I think it would literally be a good idea to do the whole, going to a vertex infected area, and if we get to here and we plant a new tree, new safe zone. Keep away from time travel.
Agreed. Now, there's so many things they could do there. I'm of the personal opinion that Yuna and Togo's feelings for each other are romantic, and that they should be a couple come a new show. Partly because I want to see that happen, and partly because of fuck heteronormativity, and especially the way Japan views that. And I've talked about it too many times before. Long story short, they see homosexuality as this immature thing people grow out of. It's stupid. And the rift there could be between Yuna and Togo, which would immediately give them character arcs and story building, is that Yuna wants to go fight.
Togo doesn't.
Togo does not. Togo honestly should be like, are you fucking serious? Are you Did you not go through what we just went through?
Yeah.
And some of the others should be. Itsuki showed surprising strength and resolve in that show, and I didn't think her character was going to be as impressive as she was. I could see Itsuki wanting to fight and Fu not wanting to, and being just reluctantly following her sister because her sister wants to. Does Sonogo want to fight? Because it seems like she's really gung-ho, and she took the fact that she was crippled for quite a few years in stride. So, I mean, Sonogo seems like the type of person who will jump right the fuck back in. And if her new hero system retains the power she had before, since she mankai'd over 20 times, she might well be their fucking, like, their annihilator weapon. She might be their nuke that they call in.
General.
Yeah, basically. But I could see her maybe going, no, man, I'm done. I could see Karin being freaked out at the prospect of it.
Karin, I think, would be the surprise and where she'd say, no, I'm not doing this shit again.
I think so, too. In the visual novel, and I guess in the upcoming Vita game, there's even shit to suggest that Karin is kind of has a thing for Yuna. And that's another angle they could approach. Yeah. She showed it a bit in the show, actually. She really did. She showed it a little bit in the show where Yuna annoyed the fuck out of her. And then suddenly didn't. So there's an angle there too, and they
doesn't have to be romantic though. You don't have to try shoehorning that into everything.
I'm trying to pyrokinetically ignite your brain.
I know
right
you
now.
are. Just like I'm gonna piss you off by saying this. As much as I would like Yuna and Togo to be a romantic couple, you can take everything that happened in Yuki Yuna to be just friendly.
I'm going to say this right now. I've said this to you privately, and I'm saying it publicly. If there's a new season and those two have boyfriends, I'm done.
I know.
I'm out. I'll be like, fuck this. That doesn't mean I'm against any of the girls having interest in boys. Like, Fu has repeatedly expressed interest in boys all the time. But she's also expressed interest in girls, right? She was fawning over Togo's chest in the fucking bath, right? Like, that's not a purely heterosexual behavior. Let's be real with ourselves. But Yuna and Togo, you can't do that to them, man. You can't ruin them with men.
Right.
But I mean, still though, this show has a future, and hopefully it won't be a shitty future. Yeah, Yuna, Waishidaru. So, I said this on Tumblr. I'm saying it here. How the fuck do they have any kind of industry on that island?
I still say the island's bigger than we gave it credit for.
I think they're in a computer. They're all in a computer, and the user sends goods to them every once in a while.
I'll get on the phone to the Matrix.
And then the Vertex is actually, they're legitimately a computer virus. Hell, they use a hero system that appears to be very code-based and system-based, that follows like a pattern of logic. And they show code a lot of time. Oh yeah, that's another thing. I can't believe I forgot about this. Saw another screenshot of when Togo was making the website, and they showed all the code. She is English commenting her code. And she's calling up a Google resource in her code. This island still has Google? Google survived the Vertex apocalypse and is...
Why not?
Good point. Moving on. Where the hell is Digimon Tri?
Spring.
It is spring!
No, it's not. We're still technically in the winter season of anime. Spring doesn't come for another month and a half, 2 months.
Can't you just, like, knock me out and wake me up when it's on?
Oh, I'd love to knock you out. You just wouldn't wake up.
Oh, boy, you, Dave. So there's this manga I read, and I'm an idiot. Remember how I said I should never shotgun 7 episodes of something like Yuki Yuuna or anything else, something very...
Because you're a wuss, yeah.
Because, unfortunately, because I am a thinking man, and because I analyze shit and interpret shit, because I actually pay attention to things, that's why I remember names better than you.
Except when you forget.
I overthink things, right? So you show me most of Yuki Yuuna in a day, and I'm obsessing over it for a week and a half, right? Well, in my search for Yuri comics I'm not particularly proud of, I came across one that was again suggested by a Madoka fan as something that's like Madoka, because that they seem to think every piece of fiction copied Madoka, called Qualia the Purple, a manga from 2011 that is still being English translated. It's got a few more chapters left, and I... Like
you mean fan-subbed?
Like an idiot. The translation's not bad. Like an idiot, I shotgunned the entire thing, at least what's out in English, last night. The whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it is good. Like, it is really fucking good. But how do I present this thing's premise without completely spoiling it? I may have to spoil it slightly, but rest assured, this doesn't even touch on what it's getting at. The whole premise is there's this girl, Hato, and she's got this friend, Mari something or other. Mari has the ability to... she sees people as robots. She has these eyes where she sees people as machines. Like, her perception of people is that she doesn't perceive the difference between a mechanical object, like a bicycle or a model, and a person. Other than that, the person talks and feels and can befriend her. Hato thought this was really weird one day when Mari clashed with her in the hallway and they accidentally fell down and, of course, shared a kiss by accident, which matters. But took a liking to her. Eventually decided, I'm going to be friends with this girl. And a little bit into the story, we learn about this serial murderer, this high schooler who's going around just killing people and just dismembering them horribly. She shows up at Hato's house, knocks her out. When Hato wakes up, she's under heavy sedatives and her arm's been severed. This thing's violent, by the way. And this murderer wants to meet Mari, thinking that Mari is like her, basically. Long story short, Mari's army of toy robots who can think and feel stop this murderous girl as Mari she can basically repair people like they were machines. Rejiggers her mind so that she confesses and gets the help she needs, and manages to completely fix Hato's arm with a cell phone. It's like really weird. She can fix any material with any other material, okay? And that's when the comic starts to swerve like I ain't ever seen swerves before. Because a little bit later, a secret organization is after Mari. They take her away. We learn later in Hato's life that Mari was killed, and Hato never got over it. So the fact that her arm was made out of a cell phone, she willed it to life, and can use it to communicate with herself in the past and in alternate dimensions and any other version of her that has ever existed in existence. And what happens from this is
Just stop there.
No, I am going to stop here. That's a minor spoiler, but it gets even crazier than that. It starts like Kang the Conqueror couldn't keep up with what's happening at this point. Like, so I kept reading like an idiot. I'm like, oh my god! Next chapter, oh my god! And I'm clutching my... There were sometimes I was just looking at my computer and I was just holding my head like this. Just reading. I'm like, I need to stop. This is damaging me. And then I Facebooked you and Rowan and I'm like, I just shotgunned 13 chapters of this. Somebody help me. You didn't help me. So I kept going.
All I'm hearing is a combination of Madoka and Steins Gate. Thanks.
Yeah, okay, fuck you. First of all, fuck you. This thing is, like, way better than Madoka already. And it is, by virtue of existing, way, way better than Steins Gate already. It is so, like, there are some parts of it that are admittedly very wordy that didn't need to be, especially when they start getting into the lengths that Hato will go to save her friend, who she is slowly realizing she's in love with. Obviously it's a Carlos read, so there's a Yuri subtext all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, when you realize the plot, like the plot twists that happen here, all make sense. Things happen in later chapters that I was like, wait a minute, and I go back to chapter 1 or 2 and I'm like, oh my god, it was always there. Like, Qualia the Purple's a good read. I recommend it to anybody. And fuck me for shotgunning the whole thing, because I am now an emotional and mental fucking wreck trying to process all this. It's a good one, Dave. Why are you shaking your head at me, Dave? I'm sure it's better than whatever crappy manga you read.
I'll shotgun it tonight and have no problem.
Yeah, some of it's... You might want to process it, because I know how you are. You can skip details, and this is not a detail skipper here.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good read. I recommend it. Qualia the Purple. If they make an anime of it, I'll die. I couldn't handle it. I also would hate to see what an anime, what's the word I'm looking for? An adaptation would do. Because despite everything I just said, like, the last chapter that I read, if the whole thing had ended right there, it would have been bittersweet but acceptable to me. And now that I realize there's 4 more chapters left, I'm like, oh no. That's just enough chapters to ruin this. So I got my fingers crossed.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Qualia the Purple. I recommend it. Go read it.
That brings us into the Shitlord Saga.
The Shitlord Saga is where we, they may be fictional, they may be real, but they are all shitlords. And we take them to task for their shitlordiness. You know what? I'm going to take that first one off the list, because it's a stupid topic. I was just thinking of shit to put on there. So let's go right to the original shitlord.
Yeah, we used to call this segment the,
Peter Molyneux Shitlord Saga.
And he is back in news this week, for 2 reasons. Number 1 reason is he is the man behind the Goddess games.
GODUS.
Or Goddess game, rather, that got through on Kickstarter. And, let's face it, he has always overpromised and underdelivered. Over and over and over again. So, the fact he used Kickstarter for this game already had many people pissed off, but people still supported him, thinking that, this is supposed to be a new version of Populous, which is, for some reason, his most popular game. I don't quite get that.
It's probably the only good thing he's ever made.
I still say Dungeon Keeper. Many people enjoyed Dungeon Keeper and Dungeon Keeper 2, but anyway. So he released this, and he's been very slow to release the features that he promised to begin with, not counting the stretch goals that people then upped their ante to get to these stretch goals. Including a person who won a competition or a draw to be included in the game and get a percentage of the profits from the game.
That's quite the contest.
Which they basically forgot about him. I'm saying forgot, throwing up the quotations with my fingers.
Well, maybe they did, but that speaks of incompetence if they legitimately did.
They brought him down there to meet the team, took him out to dinner, and then ignored him. There's a whole write-up from the guy who actually won the contest, and Peter's apologized for it, saying that the person who was responsible for that section was let go or left or something. Just typical Peter pulling shit out of his ass to apologize for stuff. But the video they released was basically spelling it out that the team that was working on Goddess is being reduced to a very small number, being given to a totally different group, and Peter's taking his team and moving on to the next great thing. How about you deliver on the thing you were already working on, you scummy piece of dog shit?
Peter Molyneux has always been a shitlord. This guy has a history of repeatedly overpromising and underdelivering. He is like Bethesda. He blows. He has highly inflated view of himself.
Bethesda is definitely higher on my list than Peter.
Oh, sure, but they suck. And Peter Molyneux sucks. And he sucks because he constantly talks about his work as though it will revolutionize gaming. And he makes no qualms about, like, hiding this. And then every time something of his comes out, it is unsurprisingly disappointing. It is always unsurprisingly disappointing. Save for a few early God and real-time strategy games in the form of the Dungeon Keeper games and Populous, he has always delivered underperforming, unimpressive garbage. And he still gets all this attention from the industry, and he still talks about gaming like he knows what he's talking about. And now he's a scumbag because he got a game crowdfunded and is not going to meet his commitment to it. I mean, yeah, crowdfunding's a risk. It's a risk. But you're still scummy if you don't live up to your obligation.
Yeah, I mean, this week especially has been, again, in quotations, hard on him, because he started off with, the first article I came across was, Goddess unlikely to deliver all Kickstarter features, Molyneux admits horrendous mistakes. Now,
sure, and he's human. He's human. He's allowed to do that. That would be the first time he ever does, honestly.
However, again, this is Peter Molyneux. The dude admits horrendous mistakes, but then blames other things. Like, he blamed the fact they weren't going to make all their goals on how Kickstarter basically gets you to overpromise to make sure people put the money in to get you funded.
Now, to be fair, I've heard that from other Kickstarters, so that could be true. I don't like being fair to Peter Molyneux, but I will always call a spade a spade.
Yes, but that's why you have stretch goals that you say we're going to deliver. When you say you're going to deliver a complete game with 1 through 5 of its features, and then the stretch goals, once you're done, you'll work on stretch goals 6 through 10. That's one thing. But when you've only delivered a game that has step 1 and 2, and you're saying, yeah, we overpromised on the stretch goals. It's like, no, you overpromised on your main goals. You're not even looking at your stretch goals at this point. What the fuck? We gave you more than £100,000 more than you asked, and you're saying, I'm done. It's just, Kickstarter has taken a major hit in the viewpoint of the public because of shitlords like Peter Molyneux.
The other thing, though, is that I want something like Kickstarter to exist even regardless of this, because
I agree.
Kickstarter brings to the people what used to be the domain of the very rich, and that's the ability to rally around and rally for funds. And I do firmly believe that Kickstarter and Indiegogo and other crowdsourcing platforms are a risk. When I put my money to something, I am gambling. I am making a bet, sometimes a bet I'm much more sure of than others, hopefully much more sure of, that the thing I'm betting towards is going to be worth my time later.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sometimes the nature of projects changed. I put money towards a game on Kickstarter that ended up becoming an MMO. And MMOs blow and are shitty and terrible games. So, I mean, there's that money wasted, but I'm not going to ask for a refund there because the nature of the project changed. I also put money towards Super Retro Squad, which unfortunately the developers actually came out and said they wasted all the money. They never programmed. They got into a too familiar situation and wasted away their days and never did a single iota of fucking work on the game. And now they have a refund fund set up that I've put my name in, and maybe I'll get my refund in a couple years. But even then, had they not had a refund thing set up, I still would have chalked that up to, hey man, that's the risk I took. And if you start to police too hard, people aren't going to use Kickstarter and Indiegogo anymore. People are going to be afraid, and that's my fear. Even though Peter Molyneux is a shitlord, he doesn't deserve death threats. He got death threats over this. Nobody deserves death threats. Except for idiots who make death threats. They deserve that. Not that I'll be the ones to give it to them. And B, the nature of his project and his priorities are allowed to change. And that's shitty, but that's the risk one takes in crowdfunding. But you're not wrong either. He's being really grimy about this. And just as I'm allowed to say, hey, it's a risk, you're allowed to say, actually, fuck that guy. Maybe he got so much good faith that he's shitting on. Maybe he shouldn't shit on that good faith.
Ultimately, it just... Yeah, I understand the risk of crowdfunding. I've kickstarted a number of things. In fact, my very first project I kickstarted still hasn't come out after 3.5 years, even though the developers are still working on what they said. They haven't delivered it in time, but I know what I was getting and they're still working on it. So I'm not worried, if you will. However, there are other projects where I'm like, yeah, that I lost my money. Person's not talking, they're going way over time. This is never going to happen, kind of thing. So, yeah, it's a risk. However, if you are part of a failing Kickstarter, you have to be honest, which Peter Molyneux never really has been. But the other thing about Peter Molyneux is he's now saying that he's going to retreat from talking about games and doing his usual Peter Molyneux.
He should have done this years ago, because he opens his fat fucking mouth and he's always wrong.
He needs to.
Oh, yeah. Like, yeah, he's allowed to opine, and I'm allowed to point out, hey, shitlord, hey, shitbird, you're never right.
You never deliver on what you say.
No, and he's...
Ever.
He talks about the industry and he's wrong, he talks about games and he's wrong, and now he can add to talking about what he's promising and he's wrong. So, I mean, just a shitlord through and through, and he is the original shitlord, and he reminds us why the Shitlord Saga exists. You go, Shitlord Saga.
And that's really all we had for the Shitlord this week.
Indeed. We're at parting thoughts. Dave, tell the people some parting thoughts that will liven up their day.
I'm definitely going to emotionally scar Carlos when I just slap on some Arc the Lad.
If you put on that scene where Elk's childhood friend got surgically transformed into a horrible chimera bunch of vaginas with a humanoid top half, I am...
Going to sit there and take it?
Like, what I'll do to you will be viewed in history as one of the worst abominations that someone has visited upon another human. Like, your foot will be your brain. I don't even know how that works. People will be able to take a shit inside of you. Like, I don't even. Dave, if you put Arc the Lad on, I'm actually going to get really pissed at you right now. I don't want to see that scene. Don't put it on. You piece of shit.
Sure.
I'd rather watch Stein's Shitty Gate than you putting that on.
I'll remember that.
Here are my parting thoughts. Dave's an asshole. Folks, if you liked what you heard, twofatguystalk.com. See what you've done to me? Let me start that over. Folks, if you think David's a shithead, go to twofatguystalk.com and leave us a voicemail on how big of a shithead he is. You can also see us on YouTube, our series Carl's and Dave Anime Rave. the best way to see that is to go to carlosanddaveanimerave.com, because we spread out our YouTube videos across multiple channels to try to avoid any one channel getting copyright stricken enough to bring the whole channel down. That's the best place to view it, especially since I can also put the videos up on my own host and have that as a backup in case YouTube is down for that video at the moment. We basically watch a bunch of anime, and Dave talks about how it's awesome and excellent, and I talk about how it's terrible and garbage.
So that's been the exact opposite.
And I talk about how terrible and garbage it is. You can find us on iTunes. Just search for Two Fat Guys Talk. Dave, Twitter. What's your Twitter handle?
At the Dudac.
Yes, I am at Handsome Fat Man, and our Two Fat Guys Talk Twitter handle is at Two Fat Guys Talk. All right. So seriously, this Qualia manga, it gets to the point where I'm like, how the fuck did she do this? Like, this is getting absurd now.
I'll have to read it.
This is, the Avengers can't beat her anymore. The Avengers and the X-Men put together can't beat her anymore. Mm-hmm. It's getting crazy.